Madam Chair, I move that we certify the closed session.
Second.
So it was moved by Mr. Clanton and seconded by Dr. Gabriel. Please read the resolution, Ms. Tanner.
A resolution certifying an executive meeting of the School Board of the City of Norfolk in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Whereas the School Board of the City of Norfolk has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Virginia Code requires a certification by the School Board of the City of Norfolk that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore it be resolved that the School Board of the City of Norfolk hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the executive meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the executive meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the School Board of the City of Norfolk. Ms. Basine?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Tanner. Thank you to my colleagues. And I will now call the business meeting portion of tonight's marathon meeting to order and welcome everyone back. Ms. Tanner, will you please do the formality of calling the roll?
Yes. Basine?
Here.
Campson?
Here.
Clanton?
President.
Gabriel?
Present.
Jordan?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Martin?
Here. Okay, next on our agenda, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I just want to recognize two very important guests that we have here today. One is we have our school board student representative and our student representative alternate. Our student representative, Ms. Georgia Simpson, is a senior from Maury High School, and I would like to ask her to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Martin, Vice Chair Jordan, Superintendent Dr. Sharon Birdsong, board members, and viewers. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the
flag
of the United States of America and
To the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. And now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Birdsong.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before we get started with our regular business meeting agenda, we have a student musical performance, and Danielle Roby, our senior coordinator of music, will take an opportunity to introduce this special group to us this evening. Mrs. Roby.
Good evening. Thank you. Chair Martin, Vice Chair Mr. Jordan, Superintendent Birdsong, and others, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you this evening Miss Maya Muir from Maury High School. She is going to be exhibiting some new technology out on the scene called Smart Music. We're using that in the music department. All of our secondary music teachers and students have launched this program. It's an interactive practice studio, and Naya will be performing a solo that she has been working on through Smart Music, and it is called Canzonetta and Jig, and it is by Leroy Ostronsky. And you will be able to actually see the notation scrolling across the screen with her image playing along on alto saxophone. So at this time, we hope you enjoy the video. And please ask us any questions or lend some comments afterwards. Take it away.
Excellent job, Naya. Do you want to tell us about why you chose that piece?
Sure. I actually chose that piece in a solo performance that I did a year ago. And honestly, I was looking through a solo performance book and I just saw that piece. And as I was kind of like testing it out to see how it went, I just thought it was just an amazing piece. And I really kind of connected to it in comparison to the rest of the pieces in the book. And I just wanted to kind of take on a challenge and stuff like that. And it was just a very difficult piece to kind of tackle. And I just loved the challenge.
Well, how long have you been playing the alto saxophone?
I've been playing the saxophone for about 3 years now.
Okay, excellent. I played the alto, so that's I'm asking. It's a wonderful instrument. I hope that you will continue to play. It's one of those things that a lot of adults give up and then regret later on. So, but thank you so much. That was a wonderful performance.
Thank you.
And Dr. Roby, can you just briefly tell us a little bit about what it's like to be, impact of COVID-19 and the virtual learning on how you're running the music department this year?
Well, I think that you just saw an example of the resiliency, as we call ourselves, we're the creatives. Mm-hmm. So the opportunity presented itself to acquire the Smart Music program. And what it does, it's quite an intense library of method books and solo literature for choral, band, and orchestra students. And it allows them to actually get feedback on the screen. Now, what you saw was her recording with the accompaniment track and the metronome. And for even a beginner student, if they're working on a piece from the method book, it allows them to click on the note and see the fingering chart and a tuner, and they can isolate just a few measures and slow things down. So what this has allowed our students to do is to have this really robust practice, interactive learning environment at home. They're able to spend as much time as they want to devote and get that feedback. And the students have really, even though we've just launched it, the feedback has been tremendous. They're begging their teachers to assign them more pieces. They want to get together and play things in quartet. So I just think this is a marvelous tool and an opportunity for our kids to really explore some literature. And we just appreciate very much the opportunity to have this in Norfolk Public Schools. It sends a message that music is important.
Mhm.
And that our instructional program is, important to us and to our children out in the city. So we thank you again for providing this to us, and we hope to continue to use it because we're having a lot of fun with it.
Absolutely. And I am so thrilled to have the music portion, having the students come and showcase their talents at our school board meeting once again, even though we're online. It's a little different, but it was definitely a treat. So thank you so much.
You're
And thank
welcome.
you, Maya.
Oh, sorry for that. You're welcome. I also want to thank our band director, Yvonne Day at Maury, and Mr. Paul Zimmerman on our staff for compiling that video and helping Naya to be able to present that to you. Thank you so much. And great job, Naya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Birdsong.
Again, good evening, Madam Chair Martin, Vice Chairman Jordan, members of the board, and members of our community. This evening, I'm pleased to share a video that shows some of the highlights of our first 3 weeks of the school year. You will see in this video our wonderful partnership with 2 childcare programs whose staff are not only fulfilling a real need of working parents and guardians, but providing a supportive environment for our students to learn and have some fun as well. You will also see in the video our Virginia Secretary of Education, Atif Carney, who virtually dropped into Martha Breslin's Zoom class at Granby Elementary School to read a wonderful book to our kindergarten students last week. I too thoroughly enjoyed hearing Secretary Carney read the book Mango, Abuelo, and Me to our students, and I'd like to thank him for taking the time to share his love of reading with our children. Then we shine a spotlight on the extraordinary work of 2 super talented art teachers, Mr. Clayton Singleton of Lake Taylor High School and Miss Nicole Hart of Granby High School, who are truly changing the landscape here in the city of Norfolk with their message of love. Next, we will take a peek into our warehouse where Dr. Dennis Moore, our Senior Director of Student Wellness, is overseeing the distribution of lots of personal protection equipment to our schools and departments. And finally, we will celebrate a little bit of normalcy as our student athletes return to our athletic fields and gyms to begin conditioning for the winter sports season. So without further ado, let's roll the video.
With Norfolk Public Schools starting the school year virtually, a couple of our long-term partners in education decided to offer full-day programs at some of our schools to assist students and parents. Champions is currently assisting students ages 3 to 12, while the YMCA is aiding students between the ages of 5 and 15. Both programs are designed to help parents who have to work while providing a safe and productive environment for their children to learn.
Our teachers support them by helping them get on, because there are some students that are not able to get on without the help of one of our teachers. So we support them. We make sure that they are going to class. We write down everybody's schedule so we can know what class they are supposed to be on and, when and what days. We can help them with their distance learning. And not only that, just want to make sure that the kids have some kind of normalcy in their life and still have fun, but yet social distance, making sure that we're wearing our masks and things like that. So it is very important to our parents. The response has been great. Our parents, when they call me, they seem like they're in a desperate need for care. And when I tell them that we have openings for a full day program, they are excited, they are thankful.
We help facilitate the students' day, we keep them on their schedule, and we just help them through this weird and emotional time. For some students, technology, it's a real challenge, and that's where our coaches come in to help them. We just want to provide a supportive environment for the children to learn and grow. We know that being in the classroom is far beyond the core subjects of math, reading, and science. They learn socialization, life skills, and how to grow in a structured environment. And unfortunately, technology eliminates some of those components. So therefore, having the e-learning academy program, it helps the students, facilitate their day and adds that back in for them. Virtual learning, it's new for all of us. Switching from a traditional classroom to computer-based, in a virtual classroom, it has, different learning experiences, and it's presented some challenges, and we just want to be there for the community. We want to be there for the school systems, for the families, especially the children. They need us now more than ever.
For more information about these programs and other childcare options, visit www.npsk12.com/page/16743. Students in Martha Breslin's kindergarten class were in for a surprise when the State Secretary of Education, Atif Carney, dropped into their Zoom session to read Mango, Abuela, and Me to them and answer any questions they had about the story or his job.
I'm Facebook friends with him, and I saw that he posted that he would love to come and visit virtual classrooms throughout the state. And so I emailed him and set it up with him that he would come to our kindergarten class. I think that any story is great to read to kindergartners just to try to expose them to more and let them see more things and hear different vocabulary. So they got to hear some Spanish words, and that's a new experience for some of them. But for others who knew those Spanish words, it was a bit inclusive of them because they got to read a story that had words that they hear at home. I think he did great. I know that his background is more of a middle school and high school teacher, but he's great with kids. So it was fun having him read to them and let them hear a new story.
2 NPS art teachers are scaling walls for art and justice in Norfolk's Neon District. Clayton Singleton of Lake Taylor High School and Nicole Harp of Granby High School are helping to fight for justice and equality the best way they can, through art. Thanks to funding provided by the Downtown Norfolk Council's Public Art Program, in collaboration with Furious Styles Barbershop and OJ Wholesale, they were able to create a Black Lives Matter mural to express their desire to realize equality for all people.
It's important for me as an individual to speak out as an artist and an individual, like I said, and as a gay female, about equality, but more so for my students. I want them to know that I stand firm and strong with them, and I know their voices are they have strong opinions about equality and fairness, and every single one of them has spoken up in the beginning of this year, and to be honest, it gives me hope. It gives me hope that this generation is so aware and they're starting to have opinions and feel they matter and speak out, and I want them to know I'm supporting them.
Imagine you're at a protest, right? And there's sound, there's energy, there's purpose, there's promise. So like the gentleman that has on the headphones, it's almost as if this is the music he's hearing as you're in the protest. This is not noise, this is not chaos, this is organized love, basically. So he's listening to that. Then you see the people in the forefront who are like chanting for what they believe in, which is love. At the end of the day, it comes down to love. And so that beautiful cloud of color is all the love of all types of people. It's the sound, it's the passion, it's the love.
Over the past month or so, we've been receiving PPE equipment from vendors that we've ordered from to prepare for the opening of schools, the eventual opening with children coming back. And so we've been receiving materials. The facilities management department and Rick Fraley and his group, they've been helping us warehouse the materials, store the materials, put it up on shelves. And we're at the point now where we need to distribute it out to the different schools and the different departments. And now we're taking some of the more smaller items that we need to sort of stage, and we're gathering them together. And we've had different schools come out and receive those materials. So they come in, we have them scheduled over the week. They come in, we stage the materials, we set it up here on the dock, and then they pull in, we load it into their vehicles, and every 20 to 30 minutes we have another group come in. We're interested in keeping staff and children safe. We have a variety of different PPE equipment to do that. and as children come back in the building, we want to have the masks and the sanitizers and the gloves and the germ shields and stuff like that, face shields, that'll help protect students.
Student athletes are back working out together as the district has launched new safety guidelines for teams to start conditioning.
We've established what we're calling the return of athletics for all Norfolk Public School high schools. And that means that we've opened up our facilities to sports to begin conditioning for the upcoming seasons that the Virginia High School League has just passed and approved, which begins with our winter season in December. Each athlete and coach, anybody that's involved in athletics, we have a check-in process. And one, it starts with arrival, wearing a face mask, social distancing prior to checking in, and then completing a health app that we purchased for all student athletes and coaches. It's a daily screening that reviews the signs and symptoms of COVID, and they're able to send that in prior to arriving, and then when they arrive, they get their temperature checked, and then they're able to go out to their athletic venue, whether it's in the gym, the weight room, or the field.
With input from the health department, student support services, and others, this plan at the moment is a win for all involved.
We've been shut down since March when the pandemic started, and just getting the coaches back involved with their student athletes from just a social and emotional standpoint is invaluable. Getting them together in a safe way, getting out, exercising, working on their skills within the appropriate guidelines has really been a positive situation to date.
Thank you, Madam Chair Martin. That's my remarks for this evening. Dr. Martin, you're on mute.
One of her fancy dancy signs.
Someone else needs to make a sign. Okay, sorry. So next on our agenda, we have the swearing in of our student representative and alternate representative. Would you like to go ahead with that?
Yes. Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Martin, Vice Chair Jordan, Superintendent Dr. Birdsong, board members, and our viewers. I would like to take this time now to perform the special oaths of office for our two student school board representatives, Georgia Simpson and Amelia Burse, who will serve for the 2020-21 school year. Georgia is a senior at Maury High School. Amelia is a senior at Granby High School, and Amelia will serve as our alternate. We're having technical difficulties at this time, so I'm going to be looking up at the Oh, here we go. Thank you. So I want to start with Georgia Simpson. Georgia, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. I need you to raise your right hand, and I want you to repeat after me. So that I do solemnly affirm.
I do solemnly affirm.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
And the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
And that I will faithfully.
And that I will faithfully.
And impartially discharge.
And impartially discharge.
And perform all the duties.
And perform all the duties.
Incumbent upon me.
Incumbent upon me.
As a student representative of the school board of the city of Norfolk.
Of the school board of the city of Norfolk.
Okay, I'll take that. Okay, for a term beginning September 30th, 2020.
For a term beginning September 30th, 2020.
And expiring June 30th, 2020.
And expiring June 30th, 2020.
According to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, Amelia, if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm
I do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and
perform all the duties incumbent upon me as the alternate student representative
of
of the School Board of the City of Norfolk for a term beginning September 30th, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2020, according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, ladies. And can we give them a round of applause for your appointment? Thank you very much. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, Ms. Tanner. And I just want to welcome both of you, Ms. Simpson and Ms. Burrs, to the Norfolk Public School Board. And I know that this really wasn't what you had probably imagined it would be. None of us did. And I know that this is a first, so this is for the record books, the swearing in on Zoom. But hopefully we will be returning to an in-person meeting during your term so that you can experience what it's like to be in an in-person meeting and seated up at the dais and doing all of these things in person. So I do appreciate you applying and stepping up to the plate for this role. And in the end, you will definitely have a story to tell your children, or tell people someday that this is a very unique experience, and we are very lucky to have you. So thank you so much for being here. Okay. So next up, we have the school board clerk's report. So Ms. Tanner,
yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Now I'd like to share our September and October proclamations and recognitions. September is noted as Attendance Awareness Month and was implemented in 2013 to bring attention and encourage daily attendance with virtual learning or in-school instruction. Next, Norfolk Public Schools recognized September 6th through the 12th as Suicide Awareness Week with its SAFE campaign entitled Suicide Awareness for Everyone, designed to remind everyone of their responsibility to make our students, parents, and staff safe. And our school board proclamation addresses the opportunities to educate, promote, and give attention to resources and awareness around the issue of suicide prevention, and encourages all citizens to join in observing this most important cause. Next, recognitions and proclamations are for the month of October. The School Board of the City of Norfolk hereby proclaims the month of October 2020 as Bullying Prevention Awareness Month. The School Board proclamation acknowledges and recognizes and encourages all citizens to join in recognizing this worthy observance to protect the health, safety, and well-being of all students and safeguard against bullying and to address barriers to learning. Next, National Principals Appreciation Month. Every year, school systems across the country recognize October as National Principals Appreciation Month. Norfolk Public Schools wants to honor and recognize the hard work and dedication our principals provide students, parents, and their staff. We encourage you to express your thanks and appreciation by writing a simple note, send an encouraging email, give a special token of appreciation, or just simply say thank you to a principal to let them know how much you care. Next, we have National School Lunch Week, which is October 12th through the 16th, with the theme, Now Playing School Lunch. And it spotlights the wide variety of healthy and nutritional menu options served by our phenomenal school nutrition staff for Norfolk students. We know they've done a phenomenal job over the summer months feeding our students and our families. So we salute them too for that. And then also we have America Safe Schools Week, that's October 18th through the 24th. And America Safe Schools Week acknowledges the importance of safety in our schools and the well-being of our students, teachers, and school staff by keeping safe spaces free of crime and violence, improving discipline, and providing a positive learning and safe environment. Excellence in education is dependent upon safe, secure, and peaceful school settings. And last but not least, we have National School Bus Safety Week, and that's October 19th through the 23rd. And the theme is Red Lights Mean Stop, to remind drivers and pedestrians to stay alert and to keep our students and families safe. With that said, Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Tanner. We have a lot of awareness going on this month, very important topics. Okay, next on our agenda is item 4.08, approval of the consent agenda. Before we do that, I'd like to get a motion to amend our agenda to add the resolution for the superintendent's reimbursement and the amendment to her contract. Can I get a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we amend the consent agenda to add item 5.03, the resolution superintendent's reimbursement, and the attached items to the agenda.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Gabriel. Ms. Tanner, please call the question.
Basine?
Aye.
Sampson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Okay, the approval of the revised consent agenda has passed. So I'd like to get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Clanton. Can I get a second?
Second.
Dr. Gabriel, thank you. Okay, Ms. Tanner, please call the question.
Basine?
Aye.
Sampson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it and the consent agenda is approved.
Wait a minute, hold on 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
I need to do Smith and Gabriel.
Oh, you missed, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Aye.
Gabriel. I didn't hear Smith. Is she
Aye.
I got you. I didn't catch you, Smith.
Aye. I didn't hear you call my name.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I heard my name and I'm last, so I just assumed I'd gone through. Okay, thank you. So now the approval of the ayes have it and the consent agenda is now approved as amended. So thank you all for that. Let's move on to agenda item 6, our decision and discussion agenda. And I'd like to, we first on the docket, or on the agenda, let's see, the monthly financial report.
And good evening, Chairman, Madam Chair Barton, Vice Chairman Jordan, members of the board and our community. Mr. Steve Jenkins, our Chief Finance Officer, will be presenting our budget and financial reports. In addition to our regular reports today, Mr. Jenkins will also be providing some information about our Federal CARES Act expenditure plan. So Mr. Jenkins, please come forward and present.
Thank you, Dr. Birdsong, and good evening, Madam Chair and Mr. Vice Chair. I'll review with you the financial highlights. Ms. Tanner has it on the screen here. First page of the report is the summary of revenue for the city's budget. You'll see that this has been revised slightly to add year-to-date actual information alongside the budget and the percentage. So there's just a little more information. To date, we've collected $38.9 million of the $337 million budget, which is 11.6% of the total. This compares to collections of 17.9% last year and 16.7% in fiscal 2019. You'll note that no city funds were received as we had sufficient cash balances for the expenses that we were incurring. On the next page of the report, this is a comparison of the spending with revenue and also the general fund budget. You can see that revenue actually exceeds expenditures by 14. We had $500,000 or 7.3% of the budget, 10.3% of the budget. And the year before was 9.5%. So the spending is a little behind the previous years. And part of the reason for that is because the first payroll for 10-month contracts actually occurred in September this year, while it occurred in August of previous years. This is because of the late start of the school year, because Labor Day was so late in the year. There were no budget transfers. Those monthly you can page down, scroll down. You'll see that previous months, in the previous years, this has revenue, but I think we're on target initially. Let's see, this page 5. If we turn to the next page 5, which is a statement of revenue and expenditures with budget comparisons for the year. You'll note that we did not receive funds from the city this past month because we had available cash balances and didn't request funds. The state assistance is a bit lower than it was in the previous year, but there's no cause for alarm at this point. We are concerned about future state payments, primarily because state enrollment is, the school enrollment is down below our budget targets, but we don't have good information as far as ACT is at this point, but it's simply a point of concern. Spending is also below last year's level, as we mentioned in the highlights. On page 6, the next page, you'll see a schedule for the cafeteria fund or school nutrition. You'll see that expenditures, in this case, actually, it's not real alarming at this point, as the revenue in the summer is usually far below our spending levels. This typically will turn around once school starts, and we're still working to see how the pandemic is going to affect our school nutrition budget. Starting on page 7, next page, there's a report on expenditures by major object class. This is a more summarized report than you've received in the past. Thank you. You can see again that the revised budget is $337 million. We have expended for this current year to date $14.6 million. $9.3 million was spent during the month of August, and there's almost $10 million of encumbrances of requisitions. That leaves $312 million in the budget, or approximately 93% of the total. Following page 7, you'll see similar reports for spending by program on page 8, for revenue on page 9, then spending by program and account on pages 11 through 14. You'll note that these are more condensed versions of the reports, but the non-condensed versions start on page 16. If you have any questions about that, I'll be glad to answer. If not, we can move.
Dr. Gabriel.
Mr. Jenkins, can you share with us where we are with the prior to or the 2 most recent fund balances and requesting reappropriation of those from the city?
Yes, I can. We are verifying, we're pretty much verifying the fiscal 2019 fund balance. Right now, we are getting ready for the auditors to come in and review the records in preparation for the annual report for fiscal 2020. We did have a surplus, as I had indicated at the previous meeting for fiscal 2020. We did hear from the city on our revenue sharing formula from fiscal 2020. The city had estimated that our share of the city revenues would be between 3 and 5 million below what was budgeted. The preliminary actual numbers are coming in around 1.4 million below budget. Excuse me, my computer's dinging. So we came out. The city revenue was much better than was expected. So that's positive. That will help the ending fund balance. I can get back with you, I can get back with the board on preliminary estimates of the fund balances that are available. We've not sought an appropriation at this point, but we will certainly be talking with the board about that in the coming months.
Remember, I think it was the last meeting, business meeting, I also asked about the reappropriation of the 19 fund balance because we did not spend all that. And I was concerned about there being a time limit for us to request the reappropriation. Did you find anything out about that?
We do not have a time limit, Ms. Smith, but those funds are still available. We will come back to you in the coming months about plans for that, but those funds are still available.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Gabriel?
Thank you. And Ms. Smith, those funds, you're not speaking about the CARES Act, are you? The two different things.
Two different things.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins, in this report, is there any kind of ongoing document that the board can receive information on the funds from the CARES Act and how those funds are being spent? That's one question that I have.
We're going to review that in just a few minutes. That's the next item that I will review with you.
Okay. And then the other item that I have is with regards to the average daily membership, ADM. If we have students who are enrolling in Norfolk Public Schools after September 30th, in anticipation of perhaps in-person learning, will we have the opportunity to report if there is a large influx of students at that time? Will we have an opportunity to share that information with the state? Because as I understand it, our enrollment is sent to the state, and that is how we receive a bulk of the funds that we have for our operational costs.
That is nearly correct. We do report our September 30th enrollment, and that is a very important number for the state as far as planning purposes. But our actual revenue from the state for any year is based on the average daily membership from September until March 31st.
Okay.
So we're continually, I believe we continually report membership information to the state throughout the year, I believe. But I do know that probably in April, we will report what the average membership has been, and it's the daily average membership from the start of school until until March 31st. So from the start of school to March 31st, and that is what our funding has historically been based on. So yes, a student that enrolls, say in November, will be added to our membership. Now, of course, they weren't here from September until October, but starting in November, they would be added to the rolls and counted in the average daily membership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Jordan?
Yes. Mr. Jenkins, Dr. Birdsong. So, Mr. Jenkins, can you explain again the process where you were saying that we didn't request appropriations because we had balances, and then and beyond explaining that verbally, I guess maybe what would be helpful for me, I'm much better visually, is there some way we just get like a memo of what we are doing in that regard? Because I want to make sure I'm understanding what we're saying in terms of balances that we have, appropriations that we are requesting, and then also what the city provided to us in terms of the September estimate that the funding formula requires for them to provide to us.
Okay, yes, sir. I just want to make sure I understood correctly. You're referring to just the fund balances, or are you referring to the city payments to us during the month of August?
Well, I guess I'm trying to get clarity. What I thought I heard you say was that there was funding we didn't request because we already had fund balances. Is that what you were saying?
I'll correct that. I'm not certain. I won't say for certain what I said, but we did not ask city funds or for cash during the month of August because we had enough cash to cover our expenses. It does not change the total they will pay for us during the year. It'll simply come to us later in the year. We had enough in the bank to cover this. And part of the reason was the payroll, the first payroll for most employees did not take place until August. So that was one of the reasons we didn't actually ask for money from the city, and they didn't forward it to any as well. They forwarded money as our cash demands required. So yeah, they've always met their commitment to us on that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't
Jordan,
know.
did you get that? Because I think I was hearing, Mr. Jenkins, I think your internet was unstable, your connectivity.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's going in and out, and so rather than going in that cycle, I think if we can get a memo to really explain what's happening there.
I'll be happy to do that. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
And then, I'm sorry, Dr. Martin, and then I guess as part of that, and maybe Dr. Birdsong, if your internet is better, so as part of the funding formula, the city provides us with that initial estimate. And so just want to make sure I'm understanding what was said, that the city's estimate for us for the upcoming year was less than, can you just restate what that was that we heard from the city in terms of our September estimate per the funding formula that we have?
Are you talking about the funding formula or the revenues?
Well, I'm sorry, revenue sharing formula is what I'm referring to.
Okay.
In our allocation agreement, as I understand it, we get an estimate in September.
That's right.
We then get additional updates throughout the year. And I thought Mr. Jenkins was speaking to or made comment on that initial estimate. Was that correct?
So Mr. Jenkins and I have had that conversation, and he has been in contact with the city about the requirements within the funding form or the revenue sharing formula. And I do believe by the October work session, definitely by the October business meeting, that information will be provided.
All right, thank you.
We have an assurance of that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Jenkins? Ms. Smith?
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins, I'm okay with the condensed format.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Smith. Okay, if we can talk about the CARES Act now. Ms. Tanner, if you can pull the PowerPoint up. Just go ahead and advance. Thank you. The CARES Act, which is also known as the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and
So Mr. Jenkins, excuse me.
with March.
We'll make sure this technical glitch is fixed by the next meeting. Mr. Jenkins, you may want to turn off your video. And I think if you turn off your video, you'll be better off with the reporting, if that's okay with the board. I think he will not be going in and out as much. Let's try that. Thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Dr. Birdsong. Is this any better?
It is.
Okay,
It is
okay. Okay, so the school portion of the CARES Act for the entire state was about 238 million. The Norfolk share was 12.7 million. It was, the allocations were made proportionate to the number of Title I children in each of the school districts in the state. Approximately $1 million of the Norfolk share.
Hold on, but I'll give you a kiss goodnight before I'm done, okay? Yeah, I'll tuck you in, okay?
Do I need to call in maybe?
No, Dr. Gabriel just needs to mute. You're fine.
Okay, thank you. So there's $1 million set aside for private schools. And if I can just put a caveat on that, because we're going to return to it towards the end of the presentation. The period that we can spend these grant funds were from the middle of March until September of 2022. So there's still another 2 years of spending available from the CARE funds. As you probably know, the uses of the CARE funds were primarily for a response to the pandemic and mitigation of the effects. We could also use the funds for online learning, and we have done so to buy devices and connectivity for students. Funds can also be used to improve academic results of students of equity and opportunity, summer learning and supplemental programs, and mental health services and support. Please advance. The grant award total for Norfolk was $12.8 million. Can you advance, Ms. Tanner? Thank you. We have expended, actually paid out to date, $1.2 million, which is about 9% of the grant. Encumbrances of purchase orders that we have issued to vendors total $4.5 million, or 36% of the grant. And requisitions were $1.3 million. So we have available $5.8 million, which is about 45% of the grant. The specific spending so far are based on our plans. Activities authorized by the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. We have a budget of $177,000. We've spent a bit over $111,000. Also, activities authorized by the Individuals with Disabilities Act. Our budget was $1,775,000, and we have spent just a small portion, about $20,000 of that. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, resources to address the needs of individual schools. And this is primarily Northside Middle School for a program that was formerly funded through Title I. We have a budget of $129,800, and that's still available. Supplies to sanitize facilities and prevent the spread of the virus. We had a budget of $3.1 million, and we spent we have available $1.6 million. Educational technology, and these are largely the devices. We have a budget just below $5 million, and nearly all of that has been spent. Next slide, please. Okay, for mental health and support services, and also social emotional learning, our budget is $920,000, and we haven't spent any of those funds as yet. We have included in the plan supplemental services for students with disabilities, English learners, and children who are either homeless or in foster care. Our budget is $691,000, and we've spent just under 200, or just over 200,000. So there's $490,000 available. And the last slide. Okay, this is a private school equitable service allocation. The allocations were based on guidance provided by the U.S. Department of Ed in the spring of 2020. It required that we allocate private schools based on total enrollment, total school enrollment. So the total enrollment of a private school versus the total of all schools in the city. A U.S. judge in early September ruled that allocation was not consistent with the CARES Act and pretty much struck the US DOE guidance. I can give an update. We have received information from the Secretary of Education indicating that they will not appeal the ruling. So at this point, the DOE, the Virginia Department of Ed, has suggested that we freeze private allocations until they provide additional guidance. So our budget for private schools was $1 million. We have spent some. There is available $695,000. We expect that some of this $695,000 will be reallocated back to the public school portion of that grant. Until we receive guidance from Virginia Department of Ed, I can't say specifically what effect that will be. But that concludes my presentation. Dr. Birdsong, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay, Ms. Smith, go ahead. Unmute first, and then Ms. Basine.
With the educational devices, I see that we've spent quite a bit of the budget. How many devices, computers, and MiFis did we order, and how many did we receive?
That is not information that I have. I don't have very specific information. Dr. Birdsong.
Yes, Dr. Cataldo is with us, and he'll be able to share that information. And I'm assuming you're referring to I believe it was close to 1.2 with the CARES Act. Ms. Smith.
1.2 what?
Million?
Yeah. It was on one, let me see what page it was on.
I think that's what you're referring to. Dr. Cataldo, please.
Yes, so we had, in the last presentation, I had the slide that indicated the number of MiFis and as well as Chromebooks. And the Chromebooks were over 15,000 and the MiFis were about 10,000. 10,679 to be exact.
And how many have we received of each of those categories of equipment?
You mean received that we have them in the division?
Yes.
We've received all of them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And if I can, we actually spent $5 million, close to $4,970,000 on technology. The $1.2 million was the last order for the MiFis, I believe.
Correct. That is correct.
And have they all been distributed now? Not to go down the same rabbit hole we went down last time, but are they pretty much distributed?
They have all been, yes. We do not currently have any families in need of those devices.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clanton and then Ms. Basine.
Thank you, Chair Martin. Really quick, when the health director was here, I mentioned about ventilation. And so in the funds that we've seen there are, and I guess this is back to Mr. Fraley, have we allocated funds to look at filters or things like that inside the schools? Is that also included in what we're seeing?
I'm going to let Mr. Fraley address that, but that is a part of our maintenance in buildings, with or without this current condition. But Mr. Fraley, want to provide some additional information?
Yeah, I believe it was Dr. Basine that asked me to look into this at the last meeting. And so we reached out to the Virginia Department of Ed, Dr. White, she's in charge of the wellness aspect of the VDOE. She informed me there are no requirements of any kind for using different kinds of filters in our ventilation systems. She actually had her assistant, a young man named TJ, call me, and we spoke at length. He informed me that there were no requirements that he was aware of, but if anything came up, he would call me. I reached out to Dr. Dennis Moore, our director of wellness. He checked the guidelines that are available to him. There are no requirements. I reached out to the chief of operations for Virginia Beach Schools, I'm not sure if he's a doctor, but his name is Jack Freeman. And Virginia Beach Public Schools are not implementing the MERS filters. They're not putting HEPA filters in classrooms. He and I, Jack Freeman and I, looked into those filters. They actually will filter down to 0.03 microns. Mm-hmm. And the COVID-19 microns are actually smaller. So they would actually pass through those very expensive filters and not really do what people think they can do. And the other deep concern about using filters in those regards for that purpose is that they create CO2 buildup in our buildings because the air doesn't pass through our air handlers. And they also create issues with freezing of condensing units. So they are not recommended, they are not required, and out in the field, they are not recommended.
So in essence, we're still maintaining changing filters like normal, and we have our air quality checks that we've normally done within our buildings, right?
Yes, sir. Okay. And the filters are changed. Right now, they're being changed every 30 days. Danny Johnson informs me. Each building supervisor has to keep a log of that. His district supervisors check on that. I'm informed that we are where we want to be as far as those rotations.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Baylor.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Basine, go ahead.
Yeah. So Ms. Smith and Mr. Clanton touched on some of the questions that I had. In regard to the ventilation systems, I appreciate you following up on that question that I asked at the last meeting. But to that point, there aren't requirements per se, but there are certainly recommendations that have been put out there regarding filters and the like. And if that cannot be done, I believe, the recommendation is also to have, proper circulation, open windows. Can we open our windows? And I know that's been a concern in some of our older buildings, whether windows are operable and can be opened. And I know we have classrooms where there are no windows, like the interior rooms. We may hear more about that next week, but that's, I have questions about, what funds are being used to, replace windows, fix windows, things like that, where we could have, air circulation from outdoors into the classroom where we cannot appropriately, ventilate our rooms according to the standards, because there are standards out there.
We have spoken to the principals on numerous occasions about what we recommend. We have numerous older schools that have windows in their cafeterias. We're recommending they open those windows. We have numerous schools that can't open windows in classrooms. We're recommending they do that as well, just to improve, fresh air. There are some inherent concerns with that because, when it's allergy season, that's a concern. If you've ever been in a classroom when a wasp or a bee decided to fly at an open window, social distancing will be the last thing we observe. So there's some challenges, y'all, to making everything, bringing everything up to everybody's standard. But the bottom line is, our units are doing what they're supposed to do. The filters are the filters designed for those units. We are going to get as much fresh air in the buildings as we can. And we are following the requirements.
Okay. And then, and this is for so I have a couple of questions related to this. So this is a question for Mr. Jenkins and perhaps Mr. Fraley. But, in the presentation, and I don't think I don't see it being shared currently on the screen. But where it says resources being used for programmatic needs, I think it would be helpful for me to see what resources in particular are being used, or what services are being provided, because that would help. That would help me understand how we're using our funds, and related to a lot of the questions that I know several of us have been asking around, not only devices that Ms. Smith brought up, but, even like teletherapy services for students with disabilities. What are the costs associated with that? If there are any, things like that, that I think it would be more, it would be helpful to have that, a more detailed summary of what those funds are being used for. But back to the facilities, I know, because I know I'm not the only one, but in addition to the ventilation systems, I've also, our aging school buildings is a major concern for a lot of families who are considering to send their kids back into the school building. And the other big issue, or question that comes up, are our hand washing stations. Are our bathrooms fully equipped and functional to allow for proper hand washing and sanitization, during the school day? And have we had to replace any sinks or, make them more functional, from the work we've done so far?
I can generally respond to, if there's a work order submitted by the building head custodian, it is processed through facilities management and it is repaired in a timely fashion. And that happens on a daily basis. As far as hand wash stations, Danny Johnson hired a contractor. They are currently in the process of installing hand wash stations in school entryways and in all cafeterias, so that as students enter the cafeterias at a social distance, there are going to be stations in their direct path to the serving lines where they will be encouraged to sanitize their hands prior to going through the serving lines. And so those things, have occurred, are occurring as we speak.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll defer to my colleagues.
Any other questions?
I think Mr. Jordan has his hand up.
Mr. Jordan, go ahead.
I didn't know if Dr. Gabriel got her question answered that she was asking earlier about the CARES funding.
I did. For some reason, the report wasn't on my version of Board Doc, so I didn't have it. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I just, I guess maybe in time for next week's meeting, but I still just like to know if we can get a detailed clarification around devices. If I understand, we just said that we have 15,000 Chromebooks. I assume that's what was purchased with CARES funding. Then we've also talked about iPads and other devices. I just want us to, as we have this discussion next week, if we can just be absolutely clear on what we've purchased and what each child has in terms of ongoing participation in online learning. The 15,000 didn't seem to me to, as I understand, again, we keep using this terminology, and I just want to be clear on what that really means for our students. So we can do that next week, but I'd like to get clarity on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Jordan. I'm sorry. Just a moment. Okay. So if that concludes the discussion of the monthly financial report, can I get a motion to accept the monthly financial report as presented?
I move to accept the financial reports as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And can I get a second, please?
Second.
Um,
Gamson. Not sure who did that.
Okay, I heard Dr. Gabriel. So the motion to accept the financial report has been moved by Ms. Smith and seconded by Dr. Gabriel. Can you please call the question, Ms. Tanner?
Yes, Basine,
Aye.
Campson,
Aye.
Clanton,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Wait a minute, stop for 1 second.
Who are you skipping?
Yeah.
Gabriel,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Martin.
Aye. Okay, thank you. The ayes have it, and the monthly financial report has passed. Next on our agenda is item 6.02, the Advantage Strategy Contract. And this it had been updated. The terms were on there, and I'd asked for them to send us the document that appears on your screen right now that actually is the wording of the contract that we'd be signing. So did everyone get a chance to read this?
Yes.
Okay. And so can I get a motion to accept the Advantage Strategies contract?
Madam Chair, I move that we exercise the contract and accept and exercise the contract with Advantage Strategies for the next year.
Thank you, Mr. Clanton. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Gabriel. Any discussion? Okay. Ms. Tanner,
Well,
please.
Ms. Martin,
Mhm.
Chair Martin, I would just like to point out for the public view that Advantage Strategies has been a great asset to our district. The level of just the detail that they have provided and being razor sharp in many cases for us protecting funding for our public school division and issues that may be detrimental to public education here in Norfolk. So I wholeheartedly support them continuing on and being our eyes and ears while the general session is in session.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, and I thought they were presenting today because I just wanted to get some clarity around their work with I guess the Big Eight. Norfolk has been included. I've seen in memos that they've described regarding the Big Eight, and I just wanted to get some clarity around that. But we can do that later.
They'll be presenting at our next meeting. They have confirmed, right, Dr. Birdsong?
Well, I asked Ms. Tanner to follow up with them, and it appears that they have confirmed.
Okay, wonderful. So they'll be talking about our the legislative update. But I guess I want to understand. I want to have a understanding of are you prepared to vote today?
I mean, I am. I just wanted to get some clarity around the services and what they were doing. But
I remember
be at the next business meeting.
Yes, they will.
Thank you.
At our let's see what days. No, at our they'll be at our workshop on the 7th. But I do recall them talking about that at great length last year about how successful it's been for the coalitions to work together and how they meet frequently to advocate for Norfolk whenever it comes, when it's deemed correct. But I think that is a really important topic to bring up next week whenever they're here as well. Any other discussion points about the contract? Okay, thank you. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine.
Aye.
Hampson.
Aye.
Clanton.
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye.
Jordan.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye. Thank you. So now we'll move on to matters of the board. Mr. Clanton and then Ms. Basine.
Thank you, Chair Martin. Today, the opportunity of representing our school division on both the CSEP and the governor's school boards. Just key takeaways for both of those boards that met today. CSEP deals with our most challenging disabled students. And so the thing that I wanted to really relay out is that at the beginning of the start of school, they provided parents with students that are in this particular program 2 options that they could opt into. One was a hybrid program, and the other one was a 100% virtual. And the hybrid actually has some of our students who have these disabilities who could actually get in-person services. And so 71% of students who are enrolled in Norfolk Public Schools are participating in that, as well as 38% are doing 100% virtual. They also talked about the reopening plan and continuing to mitigate the COVID through not COVID-19, but most importantly, making sure that our students who needed those services are receiving those services. With the governor's school, we also received information about their reopening plan, and additional PPE, as well as their need to do a technology upgrade. They haven't upgraded their technology since 2013 when they moved into their new facility. Also, a big takeaway was about diversity and diversity and ethnicity. I am a graduate of the governor's school, and I know that it's been a challenge. They definitely want to make sure that the state has asked for them to come up with a plan, and they'll be working with the local school divisions to ensure that we have more Black and Brown students who are participating in the governor's schools program. And so they'll be presenting to us a full program plan of action by the end of the school year, as well as the audition plans that they're utilizing for virtual this year. And their next meetings for both of these boards will be in February on the 3rd. The other thing was about, I shared with some, and I'll be presenting out about the Restart Smart, and some of the questions that I've asked are in alignment with that. Restart Smart is the program for the National Urban League about reopening our schools smart. And there's 4 issues that I'm really focused on. And so you'll continue to hear more about that. And for the public who's watching this, the census is still going on, and it has been extended to October 31st. And that you can still complete your census. And how this connects back to public education, it's how we get additional federal dollars. So if you're watching this and you have not completed the census, you still have time, and you can do that before October 31st, as well as don't forget, October 13th is the last day that you can register to vote. So for those seniors who are out there in our high schools and you have not taken the opportunity to register to vote, you still can do that if you'll be 18 before the November 3rd election. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Clanton. And do I understand that a congratulations is in order for you? You were elected chairman of the Governor's School of the Arts Board of Directors. Is that correct?
I was. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for the work you're doing. And Ms. Basine, go ahead.
Yeah, so I appreciated the discussion that we had earlier with Dr. Lindsay. And, I'm sorry if this is a repeat, but I was wondering if we could get a quick update on what we can expect for next week's meeting regarding next steps. Are we going to, so it sounds like we're going to receive a transition plan for the next 9 weeks. And are we going to be expected to vote next week? Are we, could you tell us a little bit more about what we will be receiving next week at the work session?
Yeah, Dr. Birdsong, her administration has been working on a presentation. Dr. Birdsong, would you be able to provide just a brief overview of what we should expect with the presentation?
Sure. So next week, we will be presenting our plan for in-person instruction. We will talk about it from every aspect to include instruction, operations, and all related matters. And we will be giving that information to you. As you know, we've been working on this plan for quite some time. Whenever the school board decided to go virtual the first 9 weeks, we certainly just didn't only plan for the first 9 weeks, but we've been planning and refining our plans for receiving our children back. So that's the information that you will be receiving on schedule as requested by the board.
Thank you, Dr. Birdsong. And I just want to add that I'm hoping that we have a very robust discussion at our work session and are able to ask the questions that would then prepare us to be able to take action through vote. I know that we don't normally vote at the work session, but should everything go well, I hope that you'll all agree that it's better to go ahead and give that direction if we feel comfortable at that time than to wait. Ms. Basine, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to be clear. So this plan will also include, what our district's decision-making matrix will be to determine, when we move into in-person, and if in the future what's the trigger going to be to close again if that should happen. So this plan will include all of those metrics as well. Is that correct?
I think Dr. Lindsay said it very clearly this evening. There are a variety of metrics that need to be considered, and they fluctuate every day. So there won't be, when we hit 6.0, we should return or not. The board will need to consider all of the metrics. They will need to consider health conditions and the other variables that she spoke of today. I think that was the third part of the CDC's recommendation. And so you will receive that information. Yes.
We will. Okay.
Yes, and it won't be much different from what we discussed today, what Dr. Lindsay provided you.
Right, but I mean, just so that we're all on the same
explanation of what our health, local and regional conditions are, and the things that we're monitoring.
Right, but that would dictate whether we're going in person or virtual, or what the continuum of learning is going to look like.
About what they
right.
Yes, that should guide the board's decision making in that. Absolutely.
All right.
Ms. Campson?
I was thinking that it would be helpful, Dr. Birdsong, if we were able to you were able to recommend, because you're the one that is looking into this so much deeper than the rest of us, exactly which metrics that we will put our emphasis on, because I know so many parents have said to me, we wish we knew so we could be watching for it as we get there. Right. And they base that, of course, on the fact that so many of the surrounding districts have it, which I know is not the reason to just follow along, but I think as a parent, I would feel the same way. It's so that we could say, well, we're looking at positivity ratings that are below 5% or 6%. We're looking at, whatever all the ones were that the doctor told us about. I think that would be helpful, so that we know that the parents are going to see not only the reentry plan go on our website, but they will be able to see the listing of the 3 or 4 top metrics that you'll be looking at.
And again, I think Dr. Lindsay said it very clearly this evening that we would be providing, she provided information about the CDC's indicators for dynamic decision making. And so those will be the metrics that our school division will be sharing with you as you make a decision about when we provide in-person instruction. It will not be any different from what she shared this evening.
Okay, thank you.
She talked about the number of cases, percent positivity, and the 5 key mitigation strategies. Well, those were the primary indicators. She also discussed a few secondary indicators for the board's review and consideration.
Yeah, and I do, yes, I recall that's a good place to go.
Advisement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments from matters of the board? Dr. Gabriel?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate the discussion that we had today at our board meeting. I appreciate Dr. Birdsong bringing in Dr. Lindsay to come in and share with the public and all of our viewing members who are very concerned about what the future holds for their children, for their families, for making plans. And I believe that Dr. Lindsay gave our board a very good look at the variety of metrics, primary and secondary. Thank you, Dr. Birdsong, for your clarification on saying exactly, these are the items that Norfolk Public Schools will be looking at. I think that she also gave us good insight into how it particularly affects Norfolk Public Schools with the population that we have, with the culture that we have, and the decisions that we have to think about for our student and staff population. I very much look forward to discussing the plans with my colleagues on October the 7th. I am in full support of taking board action at that time, so that way the division can have clear direction, members of our community can have clear direction, and we can proceed. I secondly want to just acknowledge the hard work of all of our teachers and the parents and support staff that have stepped up to the plate are doing an incredible job of balancing and learning this new material. And I know that it is very difficult. It is stressful, and our teachers are meeting the challenges unbelievable. And I'm so grateful. Our community is so blessed. Our division is very lucky to have them. And I want them to know that we sincerely appreciate what they are doing. We know that they are going above and beyond the call of duty, beyond the normal work hours of their contracted time. They are making the difference so that we can have instruction, quality instruction provided to our students. And lastly, Dr. Birdsong, an idea that I want to kind of have the board consider for future discussion at some point in time. We've had some community organizations come to members of the board asking what they can do to help, what services they can provide. I've shared our volunteer links and other items, but I think if it's appropriate later on, if there could be something where if there are services that members of the public could provide, or if there are specific needs that teachers or principals need for their classrooms, whether they're services or materials, would it be possible in order to have some type of a method or a program so that way we can connect these individuals with the folks who have the resources? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gabriel. I'm glad you brought that up about our teachers and our administrations. We are so, as I've said before, there are several of us who are parents with children that are going through this as well. So we're in it firsthand, and they're doing an amazing job, and we should all be very proud of the very talented, very wonderful teachers and devoted teachers and administrators that we have in this district. Is there anyone else? Mr. Jordan, I'm so sorry, Mr. Jordan. I want to apologize because your background.
I know. I was good. I was going to speak out.
I didn't always see your hand.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it in front of my face. A couple of things, or maybe a few things. One, Mr. Clanton back in August put forward our school board and our school division giving appropriate recognition to Dr. Anna Dotson, who passed away recently, and we all know served admirably on our school board as well as working in our division. Part of the task was to do some follow-up with the family. So we are in the midst of doing that, and the hope is to have the resolution that Mr. Clanton brought forward along with any recommended revisions that may come from the family so that we can give that appropriate recognition and homage at our October business meeting. Also, I've been sharing with the school board information from the Council of Great City Schools. I know Ms. Campson had mentioned maybe during the workshop about getting information from other school divisions. I'm sure she meant locally, but also nationally with our involvement with the Council of Great Cities. There's information in there that I've been trying to share. They also do a weekly Zoom call on Fridays, and I'm going to share that out. The last Zoom call meeting, they said that if other school board members are interested and you get an opportunity to hear from school divisions around the country, at least great Council of Great City school members, about some of the things they've encountered with opening, reopening, virtual learning, and so forth. So I'll be sharing that if anyone is interested in joining those calls. And then lastly, in terms of our discussion next week, I'd just like to re-emphasize, we rightfully gave a lot of focus on what we called our equity and opportunity students. And in the initial reopening plan, talked about some potential phase in there. I hope we can continue to give focus on that, and then also give focus and attention to the slide that you all heard me talk to Dr. Lindsay about, where it really went beyond our social construct of race and really started talking about other factors that have impact in our decision making, because we may find that some of our buildings and some of our most challenged areas may not serve us well as we look at the reopening. And then also along with that, that if there are any survey data that's been done with teachers and staff and parents, that if any of that data has been done, that we can also discuss that as well next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Any other remarks? Ms. Campson?
I don't want to get the flag. I got it out. I got it there. I was ahead of you. I just want to make sure that we are definitely voting on the reentry plan next week. I know I said it. I know Dr. Gabriel said it. What was the end? So that Dr. Birdsong knows that she's going to be making a recommendation so that we can vote on it. Was that what was decided?
Well, I'd like to do that. I can't definitely determine it. We want to make sure that everybody's ready to vote next Wednesday, but I definitely would like to work toward voting and giving the administration the direction on the next steps at next Wednesday, October 7th meeting.
Okay. All right, because that's certainly, we need to decide what we're going to do so we can get ready and do it.
And again, I want to kind of echo what Dr. Birdsong had said. Our administration has been working on a plan for a while now, on plans
I know.
for a while now. And so I just don't want to give the impression that nothing's been done. They've been working very hard, working to get the schools open and then transition forward, because our intention was always to go back to in-person when deemed safe after the first 9 weeks.
Absolutely.
I do appreciate you saying that and clarifying that for our community. Thank
you.
Yes.
Mr. Clanton?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that when we say vote, we're voting on a plan. And no one should be under that thinking that next week we're voting to see we're opening schools. It is right then and there that we set those 9 weeks, and that we have the administration's coming back with a plan that has the metrics so that we know, and as a board, we can come back and take all those things into consideration. So as my phone continues to blow up, I just want people to know that we are putting a plan in place. And that's the most important thing, is that we need to know where we're going, and so that we can have an actual discussion as a board to take all those things in consideration. So thank you, Dr. Birdsong, for bringing all of that to us, and that we continue to move forward, and everyone tune in next week as we have this discussion. Thanks.
You stole my thunder. It's okay. I would like to bring up a matters of the board item. I'm the liaison for the Norfolk Public Library Board of Trustees, and I just want to share that I've heard on a couple of discussions, one particularly with some NPS teachers that our libraries are closed. Several of our library branches are closed. The programming has been discontinued since March because of COVID, obviously, and so we're not doing any in-person programming at this time. But several of our branches, our program has actually gone online, so there are a lot of library programs that are being done online for all ages. But also many of our libraries are still open for distribution, and the city has designated some of our community centers for book distribution, and the many apps and books and movies and all of those things are still available. And actually some of the services have been expanded during COVID. So I encourage anyone to use our library services, go on the website for more information. But please know that there are books to be checked out, and several of the libraries are set up for grab and go, as well as the community centers, as I previously mentioned. So please use those resources. And so if there's no one else, before we adjourn, I just want to make, I just want to remind everyone, as we discussed, that in October, we'll be moving to our traditional calendar of meetings, meaning that the work session will be the first Wednesday and the business meeting will be the third Wednesday of the month. Therefore, our next meeting will be a work session next Wednesday, October 7th. We will continue our discussion on transitioning into in-person learning by receiving a presentation from our Norfolk Public School Administration. And I encourage everyone to please join us here virtually next week. Now, can I get a motion to adjourn the business meeting, please?
Chair, I mentioned this last week. We don't need a motion. It's on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. Great. Thank you. I thought we did.
All good. You don't.
Okay. All right. Well, that sums it up. And my learning curve, I will definitely not do that again. And everyone, thank you all for your presentations and for your comments. This is, again, a very important meeting, very important topics for our district. And to all those who are watching, all of you parents, guardians, teachers, administrators, community members, thank you for your part that you're doing to help us to do our jobs better, to serve you. We are doing this for you. We are working really hard. Our administration is working tirelessly to do the best we can through these times that we're going through, and really making the best of it, and obviously keeping safety as our top priority as we transition to through the next phases. So please, patience and grace, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Good night.